Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and I thought we'd just have a bit of a New Year's catch-up. I'm going to talk to you about my new challenge for 2022, my reading challenge that I'm setting myself, the new planner that I've got that I'm using. You can see my Lego flower project that I made over Christmas. Yeah, and just really have a very quick catch-up about what I'm doing with my reading. So I'll show you my planner first, and then I'll talk to you about my new reading challenge. So I'm one of those people that every year comes with good intentions to use a new planner, to try different things out. I've tried traditional planners, I've tried not planning, I've tried writing lists, I've tried doing it online, I've tried using apps. And every year it's the same, and I'm never sure which one works. So this year I've just gone with my gut and what I fancy doing, and we'll see if I manage to complete it. I'm quite good at picking things up and then doing 6 months and then not. Something happens and I forget, and then I sort of fall off the wagon, so to speak. But I absolutely love these planners. I've had one before and it's always fully booked, and this is my 2022 one. There was quite a few, well, there was 2 options, and I picked this black and gold one because I think it's beautiful, and I was lucky to get in on the pre-orders. I just love how these are laid out. It's obviously created by somebody that loved books. These are my plans. I've just been doing some drawing, and there's challenges in here. There's an A to Z challenge. There's different challenges, and as you can see, I've already started filling some out. You get a monthly sort of spread. There's quote pages, tracking pages, and I'm just going to try my best to use this. I'll link down below. I think these are all sold out now, but I'll link down below the website to where you can get these from, because they also do. Little Inklings, who does these, also does a novel companion, which is exactly the same but without the planner element, which actually probably would have worked for me, and maybe something that I look at next year, because I don't tend to plan. I'm not a big like diary person in terms of videos and things like that. But I've been really enjoying this so far, and I've been trying to fill it out religiously, and as I say, we'll see how I get on with that later in the year. But for the moment, it's working quite well. So I will be planning. So this year, target-wise, I've not set myself that many targets, and they're quite easy ones. Normally, I set myself 200 books to read a year, and this year I've gone for 150. I didn't quite make the 200 mark this year. My reading is definitely slowed down. I'm putting less pressure on myself to read. I want to just read and enjoy. So I've lowered it by 50 books, which I think should be doable. I've put that I'd like to try and film 1 video a month. We'll see. I've been in and out of love with making videos, so we'll see how that goes. I've written that I want to complete my Strictly TBR game. Spoiler, I'll tell you about that in a bit. I want to keep up with my planner, and I want to try and complete all the challenges that came with my planner, plus the buzzwordathon. So the challenges that came with the planner are the A to Z challenge, where you have to try and read a book that begins with every letter of the alphabet. For the beginning of the year, I'm just going to be filling in books that fulfill those letters if I haven't already, and then as we get sort of halfway through the year, I'll start to try and be a bit more targeted. There's a fully booked reading challenge which has lots of different prompts in there, including like read a graphic novel, read a book based on its cover, read one in less than 48 hours, and various ones in there. There's a genre reading challenge to try and read at least 1 book from each of the genres listed. The rainbow reading challenge, read a book with covers of every colour in the rainbow. On the cover reading challenge, where there's various different things like sunglasses, a door, a weapon that have to be on the front cover. There's a round the world challenge, where you have to try and read a book from all the different places that are listed on that. Then I've done the buzzwordathon, which this year is a prompt, and then you can do it how you want, but I'm just going to try and read 1 book to fulfill the prompt each month. So for example, this month is the 5 W's, so I'm reading that as who, what, where, when, why. And so I have to pick a book that's got that in, and for that I have picked to read The Girl Who Wrote in Silk by Kelly Estes. This one just really sort of piqued my interest off my shelf. I'm trying to shop my shelf much more. I say that every year and it won't happen all the time, but this was one of the only ones actually. I found that quite a difficult one to find, one of the 5 Ws. But this one I think is going to be a good one, and it definitely piqued my interest in what I was looking for. I'm quite drawn to books written about other cultures at the moment. This is one of those books that does something that I really enjoy, where we start in a more present day setting. We have someone sort of looking into their family history, looking into maybe an old house. I think in this case she goes to her dead aunt's sort of estate, finds this fabric, and this sort of the history of this fabric takes us back, and I'm sure we're going to go sort of past and present to the life of a young Chinese girl mysteriously driven from her home a century before. So we're going to sort of flit between the past and the present and look at sort of how the past affects people's futures, and yeah, I just think this is going to be really interesting to read and something that I'm looking forward to. So that, which when I read it, will fulfill that prompt for the Buzzwordathon. And then the only other thing that I have mentioned that I'm trying to do is I'm going to be looking to do my Strictly TBR game. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Okay, so if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that for the last year I've been doing a RuPaul's Drag Race TBR game, where I've picked various queens, drag queens, and I picked a judge, and I picked different categories and lip syncs, and they all had prompts to different books. And it was my way of picking a TBR that didn't have to be monthly, that was also maybe 4 or 5 books rather than you know, thousands of books on a TBR for a whole month and then not feeling like I want to read any of them. It's much quicker to get through those sort of 4 or 5 books and still feel the impetus of being excited about them. And it really did work. It really worked for me. I didn't do the last few rounds making videos, but I showed my final 3 queens on Instagram, and I did have a winner. I won't tell you out here in case you know you're interested in finding out on my Instagram. You can go and find out, but that worked really well. And so I wanted a similar format but something different for this year, and I talked about it with my friend Tracy for ages, and we were discussing sort of different ideas, and I might have gone down more of a board game route, which I've tried before, and various other things that I've done before. And then I just thought, no, I just want to keep it quite simple but something different. So me and Matilda, my daughter, have been loving Strictly Come Dancing. We watched it, well, we've been watching it for the last few years, but this year we really got into watching it together for the first time. She's 9 now, she really enjoys it. She can stay up late on a Saturday and watch it, and it was just really good fun. So I decided that I was going to take the sort of idea I'd used for my Drag Race TBR game and follow on with that. So I'll show you the card so it hopefully makes sense. So the first thing we had to do was to write down all of the professional dancers. So I picked all the professional dancers that are currently on the UK Strictly Come Dancing roster, and then they each got a prompt. So for example, okay, we've got a new dancer on Strictly this year called Kai. He's British, and so for that one it's written by a UK author. A lot of the authors I read tend to be American or Canadian, so that was a good prompt. Oh, here we go. For Oti, I've got judge and dancer on more than one show, because she also judges another show that's on TV, The Greatest Dancer. So for that, I've put read a book from a series. So you can see how the prompts work for that. So when you pick your TBR, you pick one professional. Then obviously your professional is going to need someone to dance with, and this was the bit where I could have loads of fun. So basically me and Tracy both picked half, I think it was 9 each, celebrities that we wanted on our like list. So they weren't celebrities that have been on Strictly before, they were our like bucket list celebrities. So for example, we've got Judi Dench, we've got Idris Elba, Harry Styles, who else is on there? Naomi Harry, Eddie Redmayne, Nadia Hussein, Reggie Jean Page, like loads of people on there. So the next thing would be to pick a celebrity, and obviously each of those celebrities has a prompt. So when Idris Elba gets picked, it's a crime thriller with a cop, because of various shows that he's been in. So you pick a professional and then a celebrity to go with them. And then obviously, if they're going to be dancing together, they need a dance. So the next prompt comes from the dance. So we've put enough. So basically for this one, with Drag Race, I put a lot of the stuff back in so you could re-pick. For this one, the only thing that gets put back in is the judge. No, the only thing that doesn't get put no, that does get put back in is the judge, sorry. So all of these, once they're out, they're out. So once the dance has been picked, it's gone. So we've filled it up a little bit with a few more couples choice. However, there's things like The Waltz, a book where the back cover is as beautiful as the front. Rumba, a book set in the early 20th century. Foxtrot, a book with a wedding in it. So there's lots of different prompts for that. So you now have your celebrity, your professional, and your dance. So that's 3 books. So next is a little bit more complicated, but not too much. You pick the judge. So you've got Motzi, Shirley, Craig, and Anton, and each of those has been given a number. So they've kind of gone with how they judge on the show. So Craig has been given a number 1. Shirley is a 2, Motzi a 3, and Anton a 4. And what you then do is you pick as well a genre card. These have got various genres like classic, graphic novel, mystery, YA, science fiction, YA. And this will be your 4th book. So you're going to be reading 4 books. You're going to be reading 1 for your celebrity, 1 for your professional, 1 for the dance, and then 1 for your genre. And each of those will get your usual rating out of 5, and you add those together. Whatever you give your genre, so for example, if I picked classic and I read a classic and I gave it 4 and I'd picked Anton as my judge, Anton's going to give me another 4 points to add to that. So that would be 8 points for that. And with the addition of all of your 4 books plus your judge's prompt, if you get 20 points or over at the end of that, they get to go into the final. Now I've made it quite tricky to get them through to the final this time because I had quite a lot of queens in my drag race game that made it to the final, and then I had to do like a semi-final and a quarter-final. And what I'm really hoping for with this, there's 18 there's going to be 18 rounds, and I'm really hoping that maybe only 2 or 3 celebrities get through to the final round, and then I can work out a way of picking a winner. So I hope that makes sense. Let me show you the first 4 books that I've picked, because I've nearly finished the first round already, and then maybe that'll give you a better sense of how it works. Okay, so for my first round, I picked as my celebrity Colin Firth, and for that it was to read a classic, because you know, Colin Firth is a classic. So for that, I picked this one off my shelf. I've read most of the classics that I'm interested in. I didn't want to be going out buying new books, but I had this on my shelf. It's something that we've been reading with my Year 5 students, and it's something that I know that Matilda will be obviously looking at reading next year with her year, when she goes into Year 5. And it's something I've always wanted to read, but it's the original is just too tricky for me. So I loved reading this. It was the Odyssey. It's Homer's Odyssey, and it's Gillian Cross, illustrated by Neil Packer. And what I love about this is it's obviously aimed at children, but it's just so easy to read, so nicely laid out. There's some beautiful pictures, and it really was a book that I could just sort of gobble up in one afternoon and immerse myself in Odysseus' adventures, and I really loved that. So I've read that one already, and that's got 4 stars. Next up is my celebrity, and for my, my professional, not my celebrity, because Colin Firth is my celebrity. For my professional, I picked Cameron. He's one of the newer professional dancers, and he's from South Africa. So for that, I've picked a book set in another country, and for that one I've gone for this. It's been on my shelf for ages and I just fancied reading it. It's called Peacocks Dancing by Sharon Mass, and this is set in Ghana, and so far I'm enjoying it. It's a much slower paced book than I've been reading recently. I'm about, I don't know, just over a third of the way through, nearly halfway through. And it's a slower read. I've been reading this alongside the other books that I've been reading. I'm enjoying it enough to carry on, and I'll see how it sort of goes. But at the moment it's sitting at about 3 stars. I think the slow paced element to it is making it harder for me to sort of engage, but it's okay so far. It's about our young character Rita, who has gone to live with her dad. Her mum's died. She's always lived with her grandma, who was her mum's mum, and now her grandma has died, so her mum has died, and so the dad has gone to take Rita to live with him. This is when at the beginning of the story, and he's remarrying this lady called Marilyn, who has no time for Rita. She's not interested in her. and she just wants the house to be pretty. She's sort of under the impression that Rita's dad has lots of money, which he hasn't. He sort of squandered his fortune away. However, she's quite rich, and we're following her growing up. She's a bit of a tearaway. She's you know, climbing trees, rescuing all the local wildlife and animals, and that's definitely not up her stepmother Marilyn's street, and so she's quite mean to her. Her dad's quite neglectful, although at the start of the book he seems like he's quite attentive to her and sticks up for her, but as the story progresses and her baby sister is born, there is definitely a shift into into how everyone treats Rita, and we're just following her growing up. So I think we're going to follow her story into adulthood, so I'm looking forward to carrying on with that one. So that is The Dancer and Our Celebrity. Then I had to pick a dance, and for that I picked out The Paso Doble, which is a book with a striking cover, because obviously the Paso Doble is quite a striking dance, and this one is the most beautiful striking cover I think I had on my shelf. It's called Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I finished this one already and I read this in a day. It was one of those books that was really fast paced, really grabbed my attention, and I didn't want to put it down. I think it's based on an old fable where brothers are turned into swans. I think that's what it's based on. But the basic idea of this is we've got Princess Shuri, and she is destined to marry this lord from another place, but before that happens, her stepmother casts a spell on her and her brothers. Her brothers are turned into cranes, and she is unable to speak and has a bowl. They call it a walnut bowl, but it goes right over her face up to her lips, so people can't tell who she is, and it can't come off. And if she speaks or utters a word, she's told by her stepmother that for every word one of her brothers will die. And so she's sort of exiled, and she's trying to find a way to break this curse and to free her brothers from the curse and free herself. And she sort of ends up enlisting some unlikely help. And this is, I didn't realise this is going to be the start of either a series or at least a duology. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then the final thing was a judge and a genre. So I picked non-fiction. And for my judge, I've slotted her back. It was Shirley who was adding 2. And I ended up picking up this one for non-fiction. It's Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, The Birth of Humankind. This is volume 1, and I've actually got volume 2, and I'm excited to read that soon. But this is a graphic novel. Sapiens came out quite a few years ago, and it was quite a dense non-fiction history book about the birth of humanity, and I tried to read it and I just couldn't. It was just too much for me factually and too much going on. So I thought I'd try the graphic novel because I am interested in history. I'm interested in how we came to be, and about how sort of species evolved and how we moved from continent to continent and all the different things that have gone on, and I just loved how this was laid out. It was done in such a wonderful way. There was sort of game shows and talks, and in one of them, my favourite section actually is the last one, which is called Intercontinental Serial Killers, and you have this sort of police officer that's meant to have called Yuval in to talk about Homo sapiens, and he's got like a male and a female Homo sapien there who have apparently caused like all these animals to be extinct. And we sort of follow this court case, you know, and it's all done in a really slightly tongue-in-cheek way, but it really is showing you the effect that we as humans have had on the world, and what our emigration to different continents meant for the natural inhabitants there, the animals, and all these animals that died out because of our sort of migration to different areas. And I mean, it was just fascinating, lots of different interesting things that I didn't know, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think I gave that one 4 stars as well. So far I've got 4, maybe a 3, I can't remember, plus the 2 extra. So I'm just waiting to finish that final book to see if Colin Firth will dance in the final. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying how this is working out. I'm really enjoying picking the books out. So I will let you know maybe in my next video, whenever I decide to make that, my next lot. Maybe I will be making sort of videos for that, or wrap ups at the end of each month. I'm not sure. I'm just going to see how things pan out. But that's a little update from me. I hope you've been enjoying your reading. I'm determined this year to find some more 5 stars. I would have done a favourites of the year, but I think I had like 4 5 stars in the whole year, and I read over 160 books. I just, yeah, not been finding those ones that really have hit home this year. So fingers crossed 2022 is the year where I will find lots more 5 stars. Yeah, fingers crossed. Anyway, I look forward to speaking to you soon, and bye for now. Bye for now, BookTube.